Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Presentation. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our first presentation is to honor our athletic director, Jeff Rudzinski. He has been, he's the worthy recipient of the Massachusetts Secondary Schools Athletic Directors Association President's Award of Merit for District E, which is a district comprised of 73 schools. And he was chosen as the recipient this year from that district. And I've asked Principal Caleri to come on up this evening and present the plaque to our athletic director. This is an award that is given annually to one or more athletic directors currently serving or retired from the organization who have dedicated their efforts to the profession for many years, having made significant contributions within the field of athletic administration at the local and state levels. So we congratulate you, Jeff.
It's my pleasure to present Jeff with his official plaque, commemorating that he's identified as the Principal's Award of Merit for District E. So congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure working with you, obviously. Jeff's done tremendous work with our athletic department, so appreciative to be able to be working with him, and to have him recognized by the entire association was an incredible accomplishment, a great part, selfishly, for me to see and celebrate, because Jeff is the most humble person that I know.
He is.
And so recognizing him, it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. And our second presentation is Mars Project from Whitcomb School. We seem to, from time to time, rely heavily on the achievements of our high school students, so I think it's particularly appropriate that we have some middle school students here with us tonight. You'll recall Dr. Kerbel mentioned this project in his report not long ago, so I'm going to ask him to come up and introduce the teacher, Christine Cody, and the students, and we'll take a look at a summary of their project.
Well, I'm very excited to be able to bring to you the middle school students. The parents are here. And I especially want to thank Christine Cody, our instructional technology specialist for Whitcomb School, for all the work that she's doing with our students, and especially the Mars Project. So I want to introduce Christine Cody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're really excited to be able to share this with you. I have Rachel and Anna and Heath and Paulo with me. Could you guys come up, please? They deserve extra kudos because they gave up their lunches for several months. It's been a 6-month project to do this, and their class had finished with me, and they continued with the project until we were able to get our image from the satellite. So we'll give you just a little bit of background. Do you guys want to pass these around a little bit? This is my first year working for Marlborough Public Schools, and so I was trying to develop a new curriculum, and I was looking for a STEAM project to work on with the students. And I came across this project with Arizona State University, and it partnered us with NASA, and we got to program the Odyssey satellite. It was a project where the students took these images that were sent to us. These are actual images taken from the Odyssey satellite of the surface of Mars. And we had to measure the land formations and do a report on the different formations that we found to see if we found any kind of evidence of underground water or anything like that. The whole purpose of it is to determine where the rover should land. They're going to have a rover launch. It's estimated to go in 2018, and then they are doing a colony on Mars for 2030. So this is all to get data to help NASA. So I'm going to let some of the students speak over here. If you guys want to say, this is our image that what happened was we chose to focus on Hellas Planitia, which is the largest canyon on Mars. It is actually 5 times the size of the Grand Canyon. And the students chose this area that they wanted to focus on. And then we had to get coordinates to zoom in and get this image. And it's one of the only image, well, it's actually the only image of this particular area of the canyon. It's never been photographed before. So, Rachel, would you like to
This is
talk about
fabulous.
Can I ask you to get behind the microphone? So,
Yeah.
thank you.
So our challenge was to find out how Hellas Planitia was made, and we've had many resources such as these images, and we had a program on it in the computer lab called JMars where we could look at most of the surface of Mars. So what we have found is that we believe that this area, Hellas Planitia, the canyon was formed by water erosion and volcanic eruptions, and how there was once either flowing water or ice caps in this area, and then there was volcanic eruptions, which has caused many of the features that you can see on this.
Karen, you want to add some information about how we spoke with the students from Canada?
So we worked a lot with Canada, excuse me, during our lunchtime, and we coordinated to make a slideshow presentation to share with a man from Arizona State University. And we coordinated a lot to use JMars together and figure out how it worked. And you could add layers onto the maps of JMars so that you could see the different features that sometimes you couldn't see in a different map. So that was cool.
We were looking at how Hellas Planitia was formed, and we thought it was by water erosion over time. I don't know what else.
Okay, so some of the landforms that you noticed, you want to talk about some of the landforms that we did? Okay. So the students had to learn different geological features, and it took us several months to kind of look through the images. So if you want to describe how we also did the rover, how we researched the rover missions, and give them a little information on the rover missions. No, Heath, you want to come up next? It's okay. It's all right. Everybody gets nervous.
The most recent rover that was sent to Mars was the Curiosity rover, which was sent to find water and was landed on Gale Crater, I think.
Yes.
And it did find some evidences of water in the past. And before that, there was the Spirit and the Odyssey. The Spirit is, I believe, stuck in the Mars sand, so it's inactive. But the Odyssey is still active and looking for things.
Awesome. So we did a multi-layered project where the students started doing essential research just on Mars, getting essential information on the planet, and then we went into the whole space race and what other countries were involved with the space exploration and studied the rovers. And then we started working with, we were actually the first school to ever be partnered internationally for this project, and they partnered us with a school in Saskatchewan, Canada. So the students got to Skype with the students from Saskatchewan and created this presentation. And then we had to present it to Arizona State, and we had a deadline of 1 week to pinpoint the exact coordinates, and the students used, as they said, the program JMars, and that allowed us to get coordinates to send to them to have the Odyssey satellite then take an image and pinpoint an area of Mars. And that's what we did. So, you guys have any questions or anything for that?
Questions from the committee?
Lots of
Go
questions.
for it.
So when you were looking at, could you see the rover? No. Okay. So when you're pinpointing where you think the water is, then you're telling the rover where to go? Is that?
No, what happened was we had research and things that we could find, like the geographical features. Like in some areas of Mars, we were able to find simple channels, craters, and things like that. We found, especially in Hellas Planitia, we found lava flows, which led us to a conclusion that there's water erosion and volcanic eruptions. And so what would happen was what we did is we picked the coordinates that we wanted to find more information on, and there was a satellite that like took a photo of it and sent that back, the image that you saw earlier, like one of those images, so we could do more research on it.
Very cool, very cool. So do any of you think that you might want to pursue this kind of thing? Like, you're going to be planetary scientists or geologists or rocket scientists or?
Travelers.
Yeah, maybe?
Or astronauts.
Yeah.
Or astronauts, right? Yeah?
We actually
No?
have a program.
I was just thinking, when Dr. Kerbel originally came and told us about the stuff you were doing, my niece went to the Northern Arizona University. Arizona must be a real place to connect with Mars, because she was a planetary science person, and she was doing this stuff. She was with her professors doing research, finding water on Mars, and then she went and did an internship with NASA in Maryland at the Stoddard, I think it was? Goddard's. So, I mean, that's a place, that's something you could look forward to. You're already doing it. It's very cool.
Very cool.
I just want to say that this was like, only 4 of us could come today, but in the beginning this was a group of 100 7th grade students that was working on this project together with another group of 9th graders in Canada. So this was a huge group project, and us 4 and a couple of other students who couldn't come today were lucky enough to continue this project and be able to select exactly where to find an image on Mars. But like, this was a group project with a lot of the 7th graders. So this isn't something that we didn't just, us 4 didn't do all the research for this. It was a group of like 100 students who did this.
That's so cool.
That's really cool.
That's
Really
great.
cool. Really cool.
Really cool. Thank you for bringing this and showing us.
Mrs. Hennessy.
Quick question. Is this the first time you all ever had a chance of using Skype before? Or had you guys used that technology previously?
I think we've all had lots of contact with technology, but I don't think we've ever done it internationally like that. So I think it was cool to see other people's views across the world, to see that.
Very much so. And it's something that's used all the time in business situations all the time. So being able to do that, probably a lot of fun, as Rachel, you were saying about the amount of people that you had the chance of working with. You're dealing with, not only were you dealing with the large amounts, but also you guys were dealing with older kids too. And how did you feel like they interacted with you all?
Well, they were in, they did the slideshow for this, but then they had to drop out because they had like something to do at school. So we, Canada and us both worked on this project. They worked on more of the research, and we did a little bit of putting it together. So.
That's cool. That's cool. So everybody kind of took their own parts and made it all work. It's really great. Good for you guys.
Other questions from the committee? Congratulations. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you. We're very pleased to announce that Marlborough was awarded a competitive youth opioid prevention grant from the Attorney General's office. This grant will allow us to appoint a licensed drug and alcohol counselor and to enhance our wellness curriculum with a specialized substance use prevention evidence-based program targeted for students in grades 4 through 8. And there is a component for a parent program as well in this grant. I want to give kudos to Mark Kerbel for spearheading this grant opportunity. It's the perfect next step after our If Only presentation and bridging to some of the other work that we have planned and presentations for next year. I do want you to know that there will be a formal media announcement, and we now have a date for this. It's May 3rd, which is next Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the high school, a specific location I'll email to you very soon. I think it will be the Little Theater, but we're hoping to have some staff members who were involved with this grant writing, some students as well as the mayor, and the Attorney General, I believe, is coming. Am I correct, Mr. Mayor?
She is.
Okay, so this is wonderful. I'm hoping that the press is here as well. I know that that's being taken care of by your office, so we'll be sure to jump on that as well. This is a huge feather in our cap, and we're very excited to have the funding. It's very much needed in our district. I wanted to let you know that on April 12th, Patty Brown, our HR director, and I presented to a group of education majors who are finishing up their student teaching at Framingham State University. I've been asked to do this presentation for about 4 years now, and this year I brought Patty, and it was a lot of fun. The students were eager. We actually had one student there who is a student teacher in the history department at the high school. So we walked them through what we're looking for in an MPS employee, tips on how to market themselves, interview skills, and on a macro level, how to navigate the shifting landscape of education and stay current in the field. We also asked them if they would mind signing up to substitute for us once they have graduated, and we also tapped them to ask any of their friends who have an EL certification to think of applying to the Marlborough Public Schools. And in the information and handouts section, I added something that we designed several years ago when the new education or evaluation system came out, and this is a group of questions, interview questions that might be used by folks in the district when they're looking for specific teachers in content areas that align very closely to the rubrics that they will eventually be evaluated on. So we handed that out to them. They thought that was very helpful as well. Also, under the HR heading, last week we had Lynn Medalliu, Charlie Caleri, and Patty Brown attend the Merck Fair at BU. This is a Massachusetts Educator Recruitment Consortium job fair. And this was during vacation, and they spent the entire day there, and they said there were lines at our booths all day long with a lot of interested candidates, and they came back with a lot of viable resumes. So the recruiting begins. I included some data. I tried to be proactive. We seem to always ask about the Good Friday date. I know we have a secular calendar, but each year these questions seem to come up, so we compiled it right after the Good Friday when it occurred this year, and I put that in the information handout and found some questions arose, which you have at your place, some backup data from Mr. Hoddle. Overall, we had 62 staff members, absent 8%, and you'll note that that includes all staff members, not just teachers and paras. Some of the backup data for comparison has just teachers and paras. So that's pretty much on par. Of those 62 staff members, 20 were approved by me for religious observance, and that is an approval with pay, which is absolutely by contract. So I just wanted to give you an indication of about a third of those who are out. Student absence is a bit higher, 17%, and you can see looking at the data from typical average days absent in the month of April, it's much higher than any of them with the exception of one of our sites, but 17% is seems to be very high. But I draw no conclusions from this, just for your information. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about that. We can hold to the end, or whatever your pleasure is. Yes.
I'm going to ask questions now. I just have
Sure.
a question on the dates. You have March 5th here,
Yeah, that's not right. It's not right.
Sunday.
It's the 16th that it's supposed to be.
Which are you looking for?
This graph,
This graph?
March 5th is not, shouldn't be the date. That's a Sunday.
Where is it? March 5th, 3/5/2017
Yeah,
is a
it's-
Sunday,
Yeah, I think it's supposed to say 3/16.
okay?
And Labor Day, I'm surprised that so many kids came to school that day.
I know, that's impressive.
Sure. This is compiled from Chris. I mean, I think we're looking more at the spike. I would not be too concerned about some of these. It's more the trends you're looking for, but that spike is incredibly high on the
On the
4/14/2017, specifically at the high school, if you break the data down based on the first page. So again, no conclusions drawn, but I know that the questions do arise every year, so there you have it for your consumption. I wish Principal Caleri were still here. He is about to embark on a very adventurous trip to Finland and to Italy. We were given a scholarship for one of our secondary level administrators by EF, which is the tour company that we use out of Cambridge. And Commissioner Chester had mentioned the trailblazing work that our school system had done with respect to some of our global opportunities around our Chinese program as well as our STEM program. And he reached out to us to give us this opportunity to allow Charlie or someone from his school to go. And he is actually going to go. I'm delighted because he'll be traveling at no expense with a group of 50 educators. July 2nd to July 10th, he needed to get prior approval from his real boss, who's his wife, and he's going to miss a few days of his vacation. But this is a life-changing and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. What's most exciting is it will culminate in Milan. Anything that culminates in Milan is life-changing, but this is specifically a global leadership summit. And it is going to be attended by 1,500 students from around the world tackling problems related to the future of food with a keynote address by Anthony Bourdain. So that is a wonderful, and we'll keep you posted. I'm sure he'll have some great things he'd like to share once he gets back. And finally, in my report, I would like to recognize our newly appointed Kane Elementary Principal, Ms. Calliope Pantazopoulos. She's recently been appointed to the position of principal at the Kane Elementary, commencing on July 1st. She has spent her entire 15-year career in Marlborough, beginning as an English as a second language teacher and then moving on to kindergarten and first grade. She also served as the Title I after-school program coordinator at Jarrick and was an assistant principal at Whitcomb School. She has spent her last 2 years as the assistant principal at Jarrick Elementary School. We are delighted to have her on our leadership team, and I would love for her to come on up and we could offer her congratulations in a more personal way.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say I am honored and very excited for this opportunity, and I look forward to working with the team, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Two other very quick announcements. You have received from Patty Sibilio, I believe, the schedule of the tours for the staff recognition. We'll be walking on May 8th at Whitcomb and 9th and 10th for the other buildings. If you're going to join and you want us to wait for you, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll commence at the time on the schedule and go as quickly as we can. And please don't feel if you can't come to all of the buildings that you can't come to just the ones that you're able to come to. I'm planning on going to everyone. I believe Mike is as well, and Mary. So we'll be busy, but it's a great errand. Also, on May 17th, please put on your calendar with more details to follow, the Masons Teacher of the Year dinner at the Masonic Lodge. We have moved as a leadership team 5 candidates forward. They were very close in our polling that we took care of at our last leadership team meeting. The Masons have picked 3 finalists, and they're interviewing this week, so we don't yet know who the Teacher of the Year is, but they're all very, very worthy recipients of that award or the runner-up award. So May 17th will be that event with more details to follow.
Any questions for the superintendent? Ms. Tennessee?
Thank you. Really excited and maybe that sounds weird, I'm very pleased, I guess, to hear about the opioid prevention grant and having somebody designated who can really spearhead that and help. Because as you said, needed here in this community, but it's really needed in all of the communities because unfortunately it is something that we're all dealing with. So I'm happy to see that we're moving forward on dealing with that. I know when the viewing had taken place, I can't even think of the date. Yeah, if only when we had talked about potentially like having them back, having the room available, and I didn't know if there was any more conversation about when that might be able to happen. I know I think the police chief was talking about having it set up some places, and I just
The hidden in plain sight room?
Yeah.
Yes. We will work on trying to get that there. We had great success at the open house at
Right.
the high school. Maybe we could also do it at the middle school as well. Yes.
I know I heard a lot of buzz from families that weren't
Correct.
able to necessarily come that evening, and so I think anything more we can do to help to encourage and setting up opportunities would be good to do, even if that's partnering with some of the other neighboring school districts on trying to get something set up.
And we actually used Hudson's makeshift, simulated bedroom, and they were happy to come and partner with us, and we're happy to join them as well. So it is a community effort, abutting communities as well.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And then,
If I could follow up on the good news on that, the good news. The
it's all relative.
the Middlesex County is one of the only areas where we've actually seen a decrease in the last 12 months. It's just, it's sad to say that, that's the good news, but it's not there yet, but at least we're going in the right direction, and I think we're all working on it, and we got a long ways to go, so.
Yep.
The other thing I just wanted to say was the presentation with the Framingham State University. I have to say, I'm excited to hear that because that was one of the discussion points that we had when we started the DIP discussions a while ago relative to human resources, was making sure we're doing the reach out. So I really want to thank you and Patty on getting that moving and
It was a lot of
continuing
fun.
that relationship.
It was
and
great. We had
discussion.
many people approach us afterwards. Patty was terrific, as I knew she would be. It was great to partner with her. I've made that solo journey for the past 4 years, and it was wonderful to have her there with the real HR side of things. It was tremendous, really good.
And last, I would be remiss if I didn't say, personally, Calliope, I'm really excited for you because you've done so much for this district over the years in many ways, shapes, and form. And to see it culminate is really wonderful. And I think for you and also for the district, from a standpoint of really understanding that that's the hope for everyone, is to find the path and make sure that everyone's given the support so that they can continue on their personal path too. And I can't wait to see what you have ahead of you because the kids at that school and the parents at that school are going to be really fortunate to have you there. So I'm really excited for you. Congratulations.
Any other questions for the superintendent? Director of Finance report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A little bit too close.
Okay, Mike, we're all here. We're paying attention.
The mics work. So, food service account balances were stable from last month. Total negative accounts are at $2,200. Again, breakfast charging is the majority of the debt. This leads into my number 2. At our last leadership team meeting with the principals, directors, and the executive team, we had a really good discussion about the food service charging policy. And I would like to respectfully request that the policy subcommittee allow me to present some revised language on the food service charging policy. I think as a district, we've taken the appropriate steps to get ahead of this issue. When I first came on January 2nd of 2014, we had $68,000 in debt, and now we've consistently stayed under $3,000 for the past 2 years. So I think we've done a very good job of staying ahead of this issue. and controlling it. And I think it's probably the time just to review the policy and just see if it still meets what we're trying to do and whether or not it's appropriate for each level. And I think, with all of our policies, it's probably good to bring it back up. This one in specific, I can tell you in 3 years, I've only had one meeting with one parent. I do not have a huge outcry, but I think to consistently review them is a good thing, just to bring it back. Speaking of food service, online payments are 30% increase from March 2016 to March 2017. So we've had a significant increase in use. The word of mouth has been the best thing we've possibly done with this. Every parent who talks to another parent seems we get sign-ups all the time. And it has been a very good system. Parents really enjoy it. I get a lot of positive feedback when I'm on the phone with parents who forgot their PIN or need some assistance in applying revenues to multiple kids. So they really enjoy it, and then to be able to see that Johnny or Susie are buying the actual lunch that they're supposed to be buying also helps as well. So it's been a very good system, and we appreciate it. The fourth item is that our transportation contract for busing is going to need to be bid next year. So if you remember, we put out a 5-year bid, which was won by NRT, North Reading Transportation. And at the time we put out the bid, I think it was fortuitous for us. We were coming off a higher unemployment rate, the gas prices were low, and we were actually able to save quite a bit of money on our transportation contract. Recently, what I've seen from other business managers who have been posting to our listserv, the costs have been going up exponentially. We pay generally for a 3-tier bus. We have 3 different tiers of high school, middle school, elementary, about $290 per bus. I've seen prices that are approaching $360 in this area. So to try to get ahead of that, I've been talking with Patricia Lang. She's my counterpart in Hudson Public Schools. They're also coming up on their bid. So we've been talking, and we're looking at a potential co-bid situation where we can try to use both of our districts to come together and possibly get a little bit more competition. Because what has happened, I think the last 2 times we put out our transportation bid, which is a $10 million contract, we've only had 1 bid. So, and this happened with Hudson as well. They had Atlantic went out of business, and NRT took over. So we're both trying to see if we did a co-bid and we put both of our communities together into one larger bid, maybe there's a company who might look at us differently as a whole as opposed to individual districts. And what we tend to do as business managers when we kind of reflect on this practice is we all tend to put out our bids individually, and then the bus companies kind of line up and take us one by one and then fill their slots. So we're hoping that potentially this might be able to give us a better price. And then the school committee, as you know, you guys also hold the sole option to renew the contract we're currently in. So the way I look at it, it's a no-lose situation. We can test the market. I can provide feedback. If the market is too high, we can continue with the current bid. But if we get a lot of competition, then we might actually be able to see pretty good pricing for the next 5 years. It'll be a decision that we'll have to make, but I just wanted to give you an update on that, what we're trying to do. In addition, I'm attaching transfers for approval tonight. I'll be moving all the funds, the excess funds, into 2 accounts, one to purchase technology capital equipment and one to prepay special education tuition for FY18 to give us a little bit of breathing room into next year's budget. That's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
On a motion to transfer funds, any discussion on that? I'll accept the motion to transfer funds.
I think that's under.
Oh, we're gonna do that now? Why do you put it down there? Just to
Because it's
mess
an
me up?
Just to let you know I've done it.
Questions for the finance director? Minutes of the meeting, March 28th, 2017.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Public participation. Any public participation? Any public participation? Wait to see if the principal gets up and she wants to participate. Action items, FY18 school choice.
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
Every year, the Department of Education requires that the school committee take a yes or no vote on opening school choice. I asked to put it on the agenda because at some point we do have to do it. So I figured it would be good to get it on the agenda sooner than later, just for your discussion.
No.
Yeah.
End of discussion.
Motion, can I make a motion?
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion to not have school choice for 2017-2018 school year.
Motion to not allow school choice for the next school year. Any discussion on that? Ms. Hennessy?
Thank you. Obviously, we have a lot of issues with class sizes and such, definitely at the elementary age, and a number of class situations at Whitcomb. I guess my question and curiosity in having some conversations with the superintendent is really, what is the situation at the high school? Because we do have a number of students that are coming in not really through school choice, obviously, since it's the international situation, but what is our situation at the high school, and how might it benefit or not?
I'm happy to address that. I'm wondering, every year, I've been wondering when you take this vote, whether or not 5 to 10 perhaps slots at the high school might not benefit us, not only from a financial standpoint, but we have a lot to offer at the high school, specifically the STEM program, with an abundance of equipment and cutting-edge programming and our dual enrollment and so on. I'm wondering if this might not make us more competitive, make us a richer high school community if some students came in to the 9th grade. It's a consideration. That would be the only area of entry that I could see. You're absolutely right about the elementary, obviously, and middle school, but I think it might be something to think about for high school.
And I only asked that question only from a standpoint of, obviously, we know our situation just looking from when we had the budget and we were looking at our class sizes. But if there's a way of potentially bringing in some potential money to the district where it would then go right back in, because it would be able to benefit additional programs. And that was something where we had a side conversation about that. I thought that, maybe it's not right now, maybe it's a discussion down the road.
Maybe.
There are a lot of changes that are potentially going to be happening at the high school, so it may not necessarily be the year to consider, but we have in the past more recently been very no on opening it, so.
Thought it was worth bringing up, if not for this year, for future, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea, and the STEM program in particular is very well regarded, and I bet it would attract students from other districts.
And there's definitely room.
And
Space is not an issue.
And we can designate X number of spots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was my question. I don't know anything about school choice law, but we are allowed to delineate by school and grade and cap the number of
Yes.
spaces. Still, I'd want some quantification of the potential financial benefits before I would vote in favor of it, at least for this year. Maybe it's something we study over the course of the next year, and maybe we end up approving something for next year, but that's just my thoughts.
Mark, just to answer your question, the school choice sending and receiving law is that for every student that leaves the district or comes into the district, there's a $5,000 payment that comes in for that student. If the student has special needs and requires additional services beyond normal education, you get a portion of that money back too. And you fill out a claim that's not unlike the circuit breaker claim that we already do for each of those students. You can quantify exactly how many seats. So for example, if you said 10 seats at 9th grade, that's it. Not 11, not 12, it would be 10. And if you had 9 students apply, and application is literally a letter You can't screen, you can't ask. You simply get a letter from the parent saying, I'd like to take your seat. So if you had 9 students apply with a letter, you take all 9. If you had 12, you have to do a lottery.
That was my next question, is if we had an oversubscription, how do we choose who gets in and who doesn't? But you've answered that. What geographic area would we consider? Abutting towns, or open it to all 300-plus communities in the Commonwealth?
It would open to every community in the Commonwealth, but as doing a lot of research into the subject, it is geographically catchment-based. So we would be looking at the surrounding towns within a drive, because what happens with school choice is that there's no transportation offered.
You're reading my mind. I was just going to ask about transportation.
wouldn't
I don't want to
have
be
to
busing
pay
someone to Lee every day and home.
Why not?
And spending the cost of that. I don't know. I'm not comfortable approving it for this year. I think this needs to be ruminated on, but I'm just one of 7. So, but that's my thought.
But it doesn't have to be voted on tonight. The vote doesn't have
June
to take
1st.
place until June.
June 1st.
So, I mean,
jumped the
we
gun.
could
Yep.
explore
Yep.
it for the next month or so,
Absolutely.
and then take a vote later on.
But
That's why we
if
put
we
it on.
vote no tonight, we would then need to
No.
reintroduce it and
We could
vote
just
yes.
table it.
Or we can table
We
it
could just
tonight.
table
Right,
it,
right.
not take a vote
Right.
tonight.
Can I ask another question? And if we don't have the data, truly understand, and sorry, but it just came to mind. Do we know approximately how many students we may be sending out for school choice situations that aren't necessarily falling into the special education categories?
91.
Excuse me?
91.
91 students.
And we have them
Leave our
broken by
district.
school as well. We know where
That
they
would
are.
be helpful information to
Okay.
have, just so we can have an understanding of where those students are going and where the money is heading, obviously.
Yeah.
You know,
What percentage of them are going to Hudson? Probably most of them are going to Hudson.
Most of them are?
Yeah.
We can have
Some are
that for you
charters.
next time.
Yep.
Okay. School
think-
attending report.
I think that would be very helpful. Thank you.
I guess one of my other concerns, going back to the seats in 9th grade, or one of my concerns of why not to open it up this year, is I think we still have outstanding questions for programs for 9th grade. Teaming. And until that is defined, I know you're saying just STEAM, but teaming, or just STEM, I should say, but teaming also is a different model than, I mean, a parent may or may not want that. So I think that has to be defined prior to. So I'm willing to table it if it's something that we're going to have a decision as far as
Okay.
programs, within the next 2 meetings, I
And
guess.
we will, policy is meeting very soon, next week, I believe, and we have some folks coming to present on those very topics. So,
I mean, I would appreciate it if we could potentially table it, not that I'm necessarily saying, let's move forward with this, but I'd rather, since we have a little bit of time, and maybe we could gather some more of the data to understand, because I thought our numbers were fairly high that we were sending out of district. So considering really all of the qualities that we have of some of the high school programs, it might be nice to explore whether there would be interest in a tight cap of seats. I do have some of the concerns that we don't have necessarily all wrapped up, whether teaming is going to happen, how the schedule is really going to pan out, how some of those changes, so we don't really know yet, but if we can bide some time by potentially tabling this, not putting us into a bind as to when to approve it, and then have a discussion at a later meeting, I would appreciate it. So if I could offer a healthy amendment to table that motion, I would appreciate it.
How about a motion to withdraw your?
Just withdraw.
Withdraw your original
Well,
motion?
yes, I will motion to withdraw my motion.
You'll make a new one.
And motion to table.
Motion made and seconded to table. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. FY17 transfers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I propose a series of transfers tonight. I'd just like to give a quick background. As I said earlier in the year, that coming into this fiscal year, we'd had some pretty significant turnover in our salary, which provided some savings for us this fiscal year, and additionally kind of buoyed the budget going into next year, as we've talked over the past couple months. And I did some additional kind of digging on that to take a look. And we've also had a number of leaves this year, unpaid, that have given money back to the district in forms of salary. I did a little bit of research. It's about 20% higher this year than it's been the past couple of years. No real reason for that. Sometimes you just have more leaves. It's unanticipated. Can't really predict it. So those two factors combined have given us a nice healthy excess for this fiscal year, which we're going to use in two ways. One is to provide the education technology capital plan for the next year, and the second is to prepay tuitions for FY18. When I look at prepaying tuitions, I'm always looking at students who are aging out, turning 22 during the next fiscal year. I tend not to look at students who are graduating because that's not always an automatic thing. Just because someone's going to graduate doesn't mean the services end at that time. So when I went through and did the transfers, we had enough money to be able to fund the capital plan at the rates we wanted to, and also put some funds away for the prepayment of tuitions. Some of the items that we saw some excess in, other than salaries, we did have a couple transportation lines that were not hit this year for many expenses. We had a lot of open positions. We had a couple custodian open positions that we literally have been trying to fill all year. We've just been one behind every time. So every time we hire someone, we either have a retirement or someone leaves employment, and we're constantly trying to fill those jobs. We've had the same issue with behavior techs, a few para-educator jobs as well. So all of those added up have given us enough excess to be able to not only make the year, but also provide us a good, stable capital plan and some prepayment and tuitions. I'm not sure if there's any specific questions that I can answer.
Any questions? Senacy?
Thank you. Just one thing that kind of popped out to me was the homeless transportation line.
Yep. We have budgeted $154,000 each fiscal year, and that has varied over time. This year we did see a little bit of a bump in homeless transportation, and it wasn't necessarily that we had, I have to say this right because it gets a little complicated. It wasn't necessarily that we had more homeless students in Marlborough, but if we have students that we're transporting to other communities, we have to split the bill 50-50. And that's something that it's just required by law.
Right.
So we get notified by the other district that a family may have been living in Marlborough, has moved to a different community, is considered homeless, and needs to be bused. And we just have to pick up a portion of that bill.
And just to make sure that I'm clarifying things correctly, it's for busing them back to our district? Or does it also then, is it some cases where it's, we are then sending out to as well?
Works
correct?
both ways.
Right. I just wanted to make sure and clarify that it's not just a one-way.
Yeah, and fortunately, the past couple of years, I think it was in 2012, the state auditor, I think it was Suzanne Bump, came up with a program to reimburse municipalities, which has been fantastic. It's the right thing to do. We appreciate it. And that money each year is up to the state budget process. So I can never tell if we're going to get it, how much it's going to be. But you know, our expenses, if we do have more expenses here, the hope is at least in July or August, we would get a reimbursement back to the city general
But we
fund
won't know.
to help us.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion?
Motion to approve the transfers as presented.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Proposed FY18 org chart.
Thank you. On February 28th, school committee approved the top line of the proposed organizational chart, and it's included for you to take a look at. You've had the opportunity to subsequently ask follow-up questions on the rest of the proposed changes, most of them going from Unit A to Unit B, along with the elimination of 2 positions from Unit B, as well as to participate in a workshop that we had a few weeks ago on these proposed changes. The status is that this org chart is ready for approval in order that we can move forward with negotiations with the bargaining units with an eye to implementation for the next school year.
Move to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Policies to be approved.
Thank you very much.
Policy.
Yep, thank you very much. So the policy that is moved forward for hopefully your approval tonight would be the designation of vocational school. I did get a contact by Mr. Walter with some amendments, so I would like to read them to you if that is possible, so you can mark it up on the copy that you have.
We all got the email.
Well, no, you did and he did, but everybody didn't.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
I sent them to the policy subcommittee.
That was the right place
Yep.
for them to go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So it's not, not anything substantial as from a meaning standpoint, but critical. And the only thing I'm going to clarify, if I might, was Ms. Grulich, when you were looking up the information about Azabeth Valley Regional Tech, did you get one that was more standard than the other?
I did not,
Because-
and I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Walter about this, and
Okay.
I would go with what he found on the website, but I'm here to say it's differently on different areas of the website and different on DESI website as well.
Okay.
So I would submit that if you go with one, stay with it.
Okay,
In this policy.
I just wanted to clarify before going down the path. So the reading with the suggested amendments would read, while students may apply to any vocational school, drop the comma, that accepts application from non-resident students, a district through its school committee may designate a specific vocational school as a preferred vocational school for the purposes of Chapter 74 non-resident student tuition program. So a few changes there. Second paragraph would read, MPS designates Azabeth Valley Regional Technical High School, and in parentheses, AVRTHS, as its preferred vocational high school for the community of Marlborough. Students must first apply to AVRTHS before applying to any other vocational school. Failure to first apply to AVRTHS, may result in the superintendent disapproving an application for non-resident tuition to another vocational school. And then there is the MGL designation that he had also brought back, which I had left off. So,
Mrs. Matthews.
The last sentence.
do you want me to read that again?
Yeah, failure
to first apply to AVRTHS may result in the superintendent disapproving an application for non-resident tuition to another vocational school. So it's non-resident tuition.
Well, that's because that's vocationals fall
Right, I
under
just-
that.
It
is
It's not
not.
school choice, which is why you're going to see something in the next two meetings about a resolution for mask.
Does it
Different.
say, I'm sorry, was that may or shall?
May.
Failure to?
I believe it's
May.
discretionary.
It says may.
May is what was, it should be shall is more definitive.
May I ask a question, though?
Shall you ask a question?
Shall I? May I? Shall I ask
Sure.
a question?
Mother?
What about the specialty schools? So if
this
they
would-
want to go to a specialty school, they don't have to apply to Assabet first?
They do
Because they
not-
don't have,
If Assabet does not have the program,
right, but we don't
Correct.
say anything about that in the policy.
no, that's,
general laws.
that's,
And for clarification, that's one of the benefits actually of Azabet as far as from a vocational school, is that they run their program where you have the opportunity of experiencing all of the different technical.
Yeah,
The
but there are-
exploratory. The ninth grade is
Right.
exploratory.
No, I understand that, but there are some
Yeah.
vocational programs that Assabet doesn't have.
Correct.
And if the person wants to go to one of those, they don't have to apply to Assabet.
Right, which based on the wording that you're suggesting, you would not be able to deny. You would not have the may to deny.
Correct.
So the question is, do you want it to say that if a program is available, they must apply?
Isn't that Mass General laws?
Yes.
Right. I don't think this, my understanding is this policy isn't even reached if a student is going to want to pursue a course of study that is not offered at Assabet Valley. And so therefore, this policy would not protect us in that scenario, as I think we've talked about. This would only be if the course of study is offered by Assabet Valley, then you need to, pursuant to this policy, first apply.
So as an example, if you wanted to
that
do
school.
auto tech, you'd have to go
Cosmetology,
to
right.
Assabet and not Keefe, as an example.
With that being said, there may be, as difficult as it may be, I could to imagine, there may be an extraordinary case in which we may want the superintendent to have the discretion to still approve it. So that's why
May is
I didn't
good.
change may to shall, because it gives the superintendent the flexibility. I think you can clearly understand that we want you to apply to Assabet Valley first, and you run the risk of having your tuition denied if you don't do that. But again, there may be a case here or there where the superintendent feels like it should be appropriate to approve, even if Assabet Valley may offer the same coursework. Again, I don't know.
Well,
It would be rare.
And the flip, well, the issue with that would be if Assabet denies them, can they then apply to Keefe? Because Assabet has,
Is not supposed to be
Not supposed to be
but
denying.
we know they do. So if someone applies to Assabet and doesn't get in, for whatever reason, maybe that program's full, maybe whatever, can they then apply to Keefe, and do you still have
I think
the
that's a
right?
bigger conversation that we'd have to have as a Marlborough resident being denied admission. And I think the
All I'm saying is we
superintendent- I'd have-
know it happens.
All the Department of Education have changed the rules.
Right.
Chicken, egg.
But it wouldn't be affected by this because they would have applied first to Assabet.
Correct.
Correct.
So-
Correct, yeah. And Ms. Hennessy, I added a comma in the very last sentence. I think you can remove that comma. It was
Right
not-
after the AVRTHS, you mean? That comma?
Can you read me the final sentence again?
Failure to first apply to AVRTHS may result in the superintendent disapproving an
Yes.
application for non-resident tuition to another vocational
Yes,
school.
no commas needed in that sentence.
So
You
I
can
will
remove that. Yeah.
not have that comma. And I can make copies of this for everyone, but since it was an amendment and I figured discussion, I thought it best to wait until we discussed a bit.
Entertain a motion.
So, a motion to approve with the amendments as provided.
Motion made and seconded to approve as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much. So, next up would be the policies for first review, which, as you can see in your packet, the school calendar policy, 7.200, marking periods policy, 7.250, private school policy, 8.045. And so that you have some background and it makes a little bit more sense, our current school calendar policy was provided to you so you could see what has been struck. And the marking periods policy is basically a portion of what was within our current school calendar policy and is being pulled out separate from the calendar policy. Okay? So if you have questions, I would love it to have some one-on-one dialogue over the next 2 weeks, because I think this could get messy otherwise, because there are certainly a lot of changes and adaptations that were made. So I'm just asking that if you have anything, please contact me ahead of time. Yes. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Just for the benefit, I was completely clueless as to what this private school approval policy was all about. And after having read the policy about a dozen times, and as is my lawyerly wont, after having read Chapter 76 about a dozen times, I still had no idea. But I did have an opportunity to speak with Ms. Grulich. Maybe for the benefit of the community and all committee members, could there just be a quick discussion as to what the underlying basis of this policy is, what the need is?
And I'm happy to provide everyone, Mrs. Hennessy, with the section that I provided for policy. People might like to see that regarding the private schools. May I have that copy? Thank you. So these guidelines are suggested rather than mandatory, and I believe it was the desire of the policy subcommittee to craft a policy because, just to keep it ironclad. And this is intended to assist school committees when there is a private school review process. And the reason this came to the front is because we have a school that is currently moving to Marlborough. We've been in discussion with them, and Ms. Geary is going to have a more in-depth conversation with the school to look at its, to quote the regulations, thoroughness and effectiveness of its programming. And once that is determined, they have to come in front of us and have your approval. So I brought forward this, and we dealt with a couple of other questions that came up with respect to retro approval, which we knew that made no sense probably, but I got affirmation from a contact at DESE that we don't need to go back and retro approve, for instance, IC or Hillside, and they've been here for so long. So this is only moving forward, and that is why this came to the fore. I'm happy to provide this document for your perusal before the next meeting, so you can read through it as Mr. Walter just did.
Any other questions? Ms. Cohen-Hendon?
Not a question, but just the marking periods policy that's in the packet doesn't have a number on it, and the number that's on the private school approval is not the same number that's on the agenda.
Okay, I will clear that up for the next packet then. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Donations and gifts. Hannaford Helps Schools, Winscombe School Program, $108.
Motion to accept.
Motion made and seconded to accept. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Staples Foundation, Wickham School Education and Job Skills Programs, $3,500.
Motion to accept, sorry.
Motion made and seconded to accept with gratitude. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Commonwealth of Massachusetts Attorney General's Youth Opioid Prevention Grant, programs regarding opioid prevention, instructional professional staff, instructional materials, $20,000.
Motion to accept with gratitude.
Motion made and seconded to accept with gratitude. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Acceptance of Department of Elementary and Secondary Education District School Assistance Grant, instructional professional staff contracted services supplies, $10,148.
Motion to approve, accept.
Motion made and seconded to accept. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. District and School Assistance Grant, instructional professional staff contract services supplies, $13,121.
Motion to accept.
Motion made and seconded to accept. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Subcommittee reports. Hennessy.
Thank you. Policy Subcommittee will be meeting May 3rd at 9 a.m. And I guess we'll be taking up the food service policy then.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it had to be immediate. We were looking for changes for next year, if that helps.
It's okay. We can add it onto our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members forum. I'm sorry. You got a report?
No, I'm in a members forum.
Okay, members forum, go for it.
Mike and I are meeting, but nobody else sent me any other questions, so I'm going to sign the warrant. Did you bring it? Okay.
Any other members? Ms. Hennessy?
I can't get all the details, and I'm sure Ms. Grulick will do a much more detailed version, but the kids came back, and Susan's here. Needs to go to sleep quite soon, but the kids came back from the Disney Festival trip and were massively successful. If I remember the quote correctly, Marlborough, from the judges, Marlborough cleaned up. And they really did, in like every single category. It was amazing. So kudos to the whole music program, and to Marlene and crew for all the organization behind the scenes. It seems like it was really an incredibly successful trip. So.
Thank you. Susan, anything to add? No. Any other members?
I'll just mention that I attended the Day on the Hill today, MASC. It was mighty early. It was well attended, and both senators and representatives from the education committees all spoke and talked about the things that they're working on. A lot of talk about the foundation budget and the changes that are coming down the pike, which is all good stuff. It's good. The House last night passed a $70 million, $70 million? An increase of $15 million, sorry. Increase over the governor's budget, so we'll see what happens after the Senate, but it's a little increment.
They'll one up the House, don't worry about it.
Sure that money isn't going to their pay raises?
Who said that? Any other members? Seeing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made, seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you very much.